I think we feel deeply tragic day today, again, for victims of this Archdiocese and for the Archdiocese. Pope Francis, a couple weeks ago, at a Mass in St. Peter's, talked about settlements of cases and what they cost the church. And he said that they've cost a lot of money. And then he said something kind of surprising. He said they should cost a lot of money. That compensating victims is a matter of justice, and that the responsibility lies upon bishops and priests and lay people, the shame and the responsibility. What we are seeing today, unfortunately once again in this Archdiocese, is the polar opposite of the attitude and spirit that Pope Francis was talking about in his remarks. Today, after 3 years, finally, the Archdiocese has presented a reorganization plan. And it's not just what's in the plan, it's how it's been communicated and how the Archdiocese, and especially this Archbishop, is communicating to victims, survivors, and our families. Archbishop Listecki today, before even contacting victims, lawyers, and attorneys, announced this settlement, not to our face. Once again, he doesn't have, and I don't know how else to say this, he doesn't have the common decency, much less the Christian charity, to look survivors and victims and family members in the face and explain to them why this settlement amount is so low. It is absolutely the lowest settlement by a factor of 50 compared to other bankruptcies in the United States. So let's look at that briefly, at that $4 million amount. That's approximately for the 570 victim survivors that were raped and sexually assaulted and sodomized in this Archdiocese, whose lives and families were permanently, in some cases, destroyed by what happened to them. That $4 million comes to about $6,000 per victim. $6,000. Let's put that in context. Because money is about value. And money shows you what you value. So what does Archbishop Listecki value? $6,000 per victim. What about those sex offenders who raped those children, raped us? What about them? Not only were they given pension and health insurance and often salaries, but to leave the Archdiocese, as we know, they were paid $20,000 to sign papers to quietly leave the Archdiocese and settle into the community. $20,000. That's $14,000 more than the child they raped. The Archbishop says, well, I'm going to set up a therapy fund, which is highly questionable. You know, if you got your legs broken by the mafia, you don't be made to go back then to get the cast. So they're going to run this so-called therapy program, which is certainly going to be needed after today, I can guarantee you that. And they call it a lifetime program. It's a lifetime program. There's $500,000 in that lifetime program for therapy. $500,000. So that's what? $700? Was it $900? $800 some dollars a victim for therapy for their entire lifetime? That's what it averages to. It's extremely important to break these numbers down.
This is a very sad day for survivors. At the beginning of this bankruptcy, as you've all heard before, Archbishop Listecki stated that this was the Archdiocese's way to promote healing, and yet that is the last thing that's come from this bankruptcy. The position, the tenor, the tone of this entire bankruptcy action by this Archdiocese has been fundamentally different than any other Archdiocese within the United States. These are the examples of every other Archdiocese in the United States that has filed for bankruptcy. I believe the lowest amount was $274,000 per survivor. The highest amount was actually over this $800,000. But if you average them all, you come up with $400,000 per survivor. And I don't think that any survivor of the Archdiocese of Milwaukee should have to accept anything less. In fact, sometimes I feel that we are entitled to more because we have been fighting this battle for decades. You know, they've dragged this bankruptcy on for 3 years. And then this is what they propose? It's ludicrous. It's painful, it's shameful. You know, just like just like Pope Francis said, the shame is theirs to bear. Well, the Archdiocese of Milwaukee needs to step up and bear that shame. For this Archdiocese to offer that to survivors is just insulting. It is much like being raped all over again, because we have had to fight for decades to even get to this point. And now he looks at us and says, "I'm sorry, we're out of money."